Wow, how am I going to live up to that? Great to see you all here. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, skyscrapers, yeah, but did you know that Chicago started improv, deep dish pizza, and I think the blues as well. So it's a wonderful, wonderful city. Please enjoy it. People are extremely friendly. It's a beautiful day. Good morning, everybody. I've got some notes, so I want to say what I want to say, so I'm not going to walk around because I'll lose track a little bit. But I wanted to start by saying that we do, in fact, in the theme of this conference, face 5 simultaneous crises beyond just conflict and poverty, but the need to foster a sustainable world amid, yes, a changing climate. The loss of trust in key institutions, including our own sector, and the challenge of rebuilding that trust. The need all over the world to develop sustainable economies that allow people to support themselves so that we don't have huge gulfs between haves and have-nots. The rapidly diminishing agreement, which is amazing to me, on evidence-based facts, truth, and underlying all of our decision-making, and the imperative that we build long neglected equity into all that we do and represent from this day forward. In some challenges, sustainability, trust, economy, truth, and equity, and they're shared across the world in this country, right here in Chicago, and we're working on it, and I'm going to give you a few little examples of our thinking about that in our university. Amidst today's overlapping crises, serious questions are being asked about higher education. I know this is a community of higher educators, and not all that criticism is new, and not all of it is unwarranted. We have to face that public trust in institutions has been eroding for over a decade, and higher education has not been immune from that. We need to take responsibility and really listen openly. Concerns about affordability, access, relevance, completion rates, job creation, participation in civil society are real, and we need to own up to our part in them and respond accordingly in this modern era. The value of expertise and evidence-based decision-making, our foundation, is, let's face it, increasingly under fire, in part because we don't do a good enough job in telling our story and demonstrating our impact. And these are not small shifts. They strike at the core of what has made American higher education a global leader. And if we fail to respond, we risk losing ground in science, innovation, and international influence. Here in Illinois, at our system, we have taken a path that I believe is responsive to these challenges. Not perfect, for sure, but I'll tell you a little bit about it shortly. I'm thrilled to welcome you to Chicago, to this critical conversation at the Elsevier Impact Conference. Especially pleased that we've gathered here in this great state of Illinois, which I now call home, after Wales is where I grew up, in one of the most dynamic and at its heart, truly international cities in the world. Most of us, perhaps all of us, are working through shared challenges and obstacles, and many of them are found in those crises that I just listed. But higher education holds the tools and the responsibility to meet these challenges, and I would say particularly in the United States, and to catalyze, and I'm going to use the word catalysis a lot, to catalyze the opportunities that the shared duress presents to us. As I'll discuss, higher education should be and is a force for positive change and real impact, and we need to focus like a laser on those contributions. Our work today helps shape societies that we live in by confronting the challenges like sustainability. I like to call that thrivability, because we don't want a miserable, Blade Runner movie kind of future. We want something where all people can thrive. We need to worry about health inequities, economic instability, and disinformation every single day across all of our disciplines in our communities. And regardless of your role and your title in your institution, we're all going to have to come together to confront this dynamic environment and ensure that our colleges and universities thrive for future generations. So before I jump into the key main message I'd like to leave with you, let me give you a little context, tell you a little bit more about University of Illinois system and the state whose people we serve. I'll start with Illinois, 6th largest state in the United States, home to over 12 million people, one of the world's most vibrant cities. Chicago, if we were a nation, would be larger than Greece, Portugal, or Sweden, be about the size of the Netherlands. Annual GDP in Illinois is $1 trillion. which would rank us as G18 or G20 if it was a country. So we're big, and we need to lift up and stretch and take on the world as if that size was important and significant. Chicago is, as I like to say, a great global city. It's a magnet for friendly, talented, and ambitious people from around the world, and the indisputable capital of the American Midwest. And the American Midwest is 1/3 of the GDP of the United States. Okay, let's forget about those coasts for a minute. Hard-working, friendly people, arable soil, fresh water, great institutions, affordable to raise families and have homes. We need to stretch. We need to step up our game in this part of the world. So let me tell you about the university system I've had a privilege to lead for the last decade. Founded, as you know, in 1867, part of the land grant movement in the United States, a truly visionary effort in our country during the Civil War by some of our elected leaders to provide the states with the resources to start their own public universities to serve a growing nation and leave nobody behind. It was an agronomy at the time, and now it's all this multifaceted economy, but it's still the same central mission. We're now a big state, research-intensive, comprehensive, public, place-based university system. And looking back along that long history, time and again, when our university system puts its energy into something, transformative things happen. We have a responsibility to lead and engage, not just for the sake of ourselves, but to catalyze, again that word, impact, that word too, for the betterment of society. That's the lens I want to use today as we think about the evolving landscape. Our system, as I think you'll see, we strive to make a catalyst for accelerating and realizing local impact while also tackling the grand challenges of our time. It's a major part of our formula for continued success and effectively providing and then communicating the public good that flows. The heart of our university system is 3 universities. Combined, we serve nearly 100,000 students. I think we'll be at 100,000 students in the fall. Flagship largest university is the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, major research hub and our state's largest university, the university that gave the world the first educational software, the first chat room, indoor air conditioning, LED lighting, you name it, all the things that have flowed. The first browser that was available that launched the internet all came out of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And also the electric vehicle revolution, the transmission that allowed EVs to actually accelerate, because otherwise they were like milk trucks, too slow. And in fact, Tesla, pre-Elon, was founded by alums at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. University of Illinois Chicago, right here in the city, biggest university in the city, incredibly diverse university, much of it focused on health and medicine as well as urban climate resiliency. Lots of innovations coming from that, and I'll mention one of them shortly. And then in the state capital, University of Illinois Springfield, highly regarded regional university, ranked number 1, not that I care about rankings, but in the Midwest. Excellent programs founded on public affairs, online education, business, amongst others. So that's the context of where I come from. But now let's get back to these crises: sustainability, trust, equity, economy, and truth-telling. And as I'm sure you're aware, each of these helps feed tragic conflicts being waged in so many places right now on our collective watch. In such a time, what is the role of the university? So let me begin by saying there is hope. Start with that word, and not just a little of it. And I want to start there with a message of hope. Not litanies of problems, but hope for the future. And I'll give you a little preview now, and that's where I intend to end up my little conversation as well. At the end of June this year, just a couple of weeks ago, we hosted the SRI Congress right here in Chicago. SRI is the Sustainability, Research, and Innovation Congress. It's the international big congress, happens every year. It's been in South Africa, Australia, Panama, Finland. It came to the United States just down the river from here. A global convening of scientists, policymakers, funders, business leaders, change makers, focused on advancing a more sustainable, inclusive, and resilient future for the first time in the United States. Importantly, it also includes and uplifts the voices of the youth. Youngest was 9 years old. and indigenous populations from Latin America, from Australia, from all parts of the world, those who are often left out of detailed conversations about sustainability, but those who will be most impacted tomorrow by our actions today. As part of that effort, we hired a local artist group to graphically represent the key takeaways from the event. And this was the graph that they produced a couple of years ago. Notice that hope is right in the middle, big word. It came out again and again and again and again. And young people right now are a little dismayed. They need that aspirational setting to take on their careers into the future. So hope is important. You can see some of it here. The Congress centered on climate action, sustainability, and innovation for equity, and as you can see, hope. When we began planning for this event 2 years ago, the global and national contexts were very different from what they are today. And nothing really prepared us for what we faced just a few months before opening day. Federal funding for SRI was terminated. Nobody from federal agencies could come to Chicago. Borders were closing, becoming less porous. Climate science, inclusive innovation were under assault, as you all know, as you've been reading about. To say that we questioned in my office whether to proceed is a little understatement of the conversations we had around our table. But we moved forward, and not just out of optimism or hope, but out of responsibility. We have a responsibility to bring solutions, international, collective solutions to bear on the challenges of our time. So we decided to go ahead, and we blew past every expectation. More than 1,700 participants from more than 60 countries joined us in person and online over 4 days. We had policymakers, business leaders, funders, academicians from all over the world, and for 1 week, Chicago became Solutions Capital Planet Earth. I'm really proud of that. Literally, it was Solutions Capital Planet Earth. And what began as just another global conference became something more, a lighthouse moment, I like to think of it, a space to gather a coalition of the willing and to catalyze action for the future and deliver hope to the next generations that are coming. And they come to our university and your universities too. And you know what I mean to say that they need a burst of aspirational setting. We adjusted our expectations, confronted those challenges head on, doubled down on partnerships, kept moving. The enthusiasm was electric. One of the most impactful things I heard came from Ana Stewart-Ibarra, Executive Director of the Inter-America Institute for Global Change Research, or IAI, working all across Latin America. It's an intergovernmental organization based in Panama. It works with 19 countries. She said to me and to us, "You've renewed my faith in the United States." That's quite a statement if you think about it. So we renewed her faith in the United States. The vibrant capabilities of this country are not to be ignored into the future. And so we gave her directly hope for that future. It wasn't just a successful event, it was a lighthouse moment. And if you think I'm exaggerating, talk to any one of those 1,700 people who came. One of them also said that you've spoiled my conference going for the future, because we had music we had the blues, we had mariachi bands, we had Native American dances. It was a collective, all hands on deck moment about solutions leaning forward into the problem sets of our time. So despite the turbulence, despite fear and resistance, we must keep going. Higher education must lead and not retreat, not wait, not commentate alone on the sidelines. And I always think of the public-private governmental as the tripod that we need. I think increasingly in my elderly age now that the public higher ed must lead, not just follow, not just wait for the grants to show up, but actually lead, set the agenda, and create the goodness in society so the communities feel like they have opportunities. And in leading, we must be catalysts for hope and collaboration and engines for greater impact. Turbulence and uncertainty are, I know, familiar, and we're navigating many of those things right now. We're all navigating overlapping stressors. Take care of yourselves, get some good sleep, exercise, breathe in, breathe out. This too will pass. We'll get through this together. But globally, we have these stresses. We face climate extremes, economic shocks, and political fragmentation. Nationally here in the US, disinvestment in research, declining public funding, Threats to academic freedom are all realities, and anxiety is growing in our youthful communities. Interns, postdocs, graduate students are all somewhat anxious right now, and you can't dissolve that anxiety, but you can be honest and straightforward about what's really happening and what's not actually happening. And these are not passing disruptions, they're structural shocks, and I see them as existential stress tests for our sector. It isn't just an American story. Around the world, inflation, automation, labor realignment are colliding with political polarization and climate-driven upheaval, floods, fires, migration, and food insecurity. Most of my professional career has been in satellite remote sensing of planet Earth, so I've been teaching Earth system science for more years than we have probably to talk about. And so we are seeing mosquitoes in Greenland, for example, where I used to go for my research regularly. So things are changing, but universities are at the crossroads of all of this. So let's be clear, these stresses are not just bad for us in the university sector, it's bad for society. The disruptions touch the lives of anybody trying to build a stable future. They can affect communities already suffering from disinvestment. They can weaken economies that depend on the steady pipeline of talent and innovation, and they can erode the global knowledge ecosystem that's critical for solving shared threats. So when we weaken our universities, we weaken our collective ability to confront the challenges of our time. So what now? What is our responsibility? Now that I've really depressed you, what is our responsibility as in our sector to take on? And hope is a key word in that. Collective action is a key word. Now, as part of the SRI Congress, we published a book. Okay, that's what academics do, right? We publish books, often in Elsevier journals, and we document, we analyze, we share knowledge, we debate, we discuss, and we publish. But I want to pull out a quote from the foreword of the book. It was written by Jeffrey Sachs, an economist at Columbia University and president of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, really an architect of the SDGs that you already mentioned, Judy. And in it, Jeffrey offered both the sobering diagnosis, which I just gave, and a call to action. And then he went on to write, if all of this sounds daunting, it is, but the prize is fully worth the effort. We have within our reach a world that is prosperous, in which poverty has been banished, in which today's harrowing environmental crises have been solved, ensuring that the world will continue to be safe and wondrous for our children, grandchildren, and I've got 2 of those now, and generations to come. And then, in a single sentence, he says, enter the universities to the rescue. Think about that for a moment. So the question becomes, what is our responsibility? What's our action agenda in our sector, on our watch, with all of these things happening? Will we remain passive observers of these changes, or will we become architects of solution sets? When we cling to outdated models and mindsets, if we do, or will we embrace the opportunity of the shared adversity and the responsibility to lead in the midst of disruption? This is not just a philosophical question, it's a strategic imperative for our times. So who will prepare the next generation to lead in this new reality? Who will generate the knowledge and solutions to address climate change, create sustainable technologies, ethical technologies that go from data sets to solutions that have impact, meaningful impact on communities and families? Who will act to generate the knowledge and solutions to strengthen democracy? We're working with Brazil on imperiled democracy, for example, all of Brazil. How do we work together to strengthen democracy and to build inclusive economies? And then asking the question, if not us in our sector, then who and when? So I think there is a responsibility. Now we're in a particular situation in this state at this time, but a catalyst for impact is what we are striving to become. In the face of all the turbulence, higher education must become that catalyst and the engine for yet greater impact. Too many people are being left behind. We must ignite new knowledge, spark new collaborations, and unlock new possibilities. Our institutions must be embedded and drive the solutions economy, the democratic ecosystem, and the global innovation network. I think you used the word network. I'll come back to that as well. So what is a catalyst? What do I mean by that? A force that provokes or speeds significant change. It speeds transformation, lowers the barriers to change, connects disparate elements into a new outcome, and then recovers itself to keep going. It isn't passive, it's intentional, activating, and persistent. And these institutions have been around a long time, and we need to think more as how we catalyze progress and not just describe and train. Higher education is not just in the world then, it is shaping the world. And like any true catalyst, it doesn't work alone, but it makes transformation possible faster and more sustainable. So I want to be clear, our focus is on impact. Our role as a catalyst is how we accelerate the actions needed to deliver and maximize that impact. Let's talk about how higher education can accelerate impact with a couple of examples. At the University of Illinois system, we often use a simple equation to describe how we think about our influence. Yeah, I look at rankings and ratings and so forth, but this is what I really care about. We want to have impact. What does that mean? The core of any university's impact is how far you reach to human beings. That's scale, S, in this equation. And how good you are at what you do. That's excellence, or E, in this equation. So if you pit scale against excellence and you're small but great, you have some impact. If you're huge but you don't have excellence, you have some impact too. But if you combine the two, you can optimize the impact. But then I add something to this, and that is we've learned that there's a third variable to amplify that impact equation. How do we optimize impact? And I think of it as M for magic. Okay, what the heck is that? He's a physicist, what's he talking about? If you can multiply excellence and scale and then raise it to the power of magic, exponentially, the impact can be off the charts. If you're in an institution where it's so bureaucratically tied up that there's no magic, then impact goes down exponentially too. But if it could be 2, 5, 10, the impact just goes off the scale. It's hard to define what it means, but magic is boldness, visionary leadership, passion for learning, a culture of collaboration, interdisciplinarity, a fearless pursuit of new knowledge, a willingness to take risks for that new knowledge, bringing people to the table with different voices. It embraces diversity for all the reasons of viewpoint diversity, as well as rural, urban, peri-urban, authentic partnerships, roll your sleeves up kind of partnerships, as opposed to just checking boxes with MOUs all over the place. All of this is embodied in this magic, and you know it when you see it. If you see an institution that's really got a culture of innovation, it's because of all of these things coming together. And if you can optimize that exponent, watch out. You can have a huge impact on the world. It's a great collision of ideas and perspectives, like particles colliding. It gives us something entirely new and potentially transformative. So now the equation becomes impact equals scale times excellence raised to the power of magic. And you know what that means. It means leaders shouldn't be screwing up and stepping on landmines, for example. That's not helpful because it can be setbacks. It means that young voices are listened to and heard and participate in ideation and co-creation of the future. It means that the biophysical landscape must be interacting with the social sciences and the arts and the humanities. That's why we had music all over the Congress, because it just got everybody flowing in the moment. It has all of those fields, ranging from the arts, humanities, social sciences, biophysical, and those are what universities that are research centers bring to the table. Not all companies do bring those things to the table. But even that equation, which I kind of like, doesn't quite capture the catalytic thing. There's a fourth force that I multiply as well, and that's the role of catalysis. In science, the catalyst speeds up a reaction without being consumed in the process. In the context of higher education, a catalyst is an idea, the collaboration, a platform or a partnership that unlocks greater change than any single actor could create alone. So the full equation, impact equals scale times excellence, raise the power of magic times catalytic function. That's a no ranking system that I know of, but it's what we care about at the University of Illinois system because we want to optimize impact for the public good. So think of it like a campfire. Scale is the wood, excellence is the spark, but the catalyst is the oxygen. Without it, the fire doesn't catch. With it, the fire spreads. At our best, universities aren't just teaching or researching in isolation. We're catalyzing new ecosystems of impact within our communities and across the globe. And the question we all now face is, are we building that fire and are we bringing the oxygen? One of the most troubling trends we see right now is a tendency of universities to pull up the ladders and hunker down in our ivory towers. No more ivory towers is one of my messages, but I didn't say that. You didn't hear that. This is exactly what we cannot afford to have happen. If we want not only to survive these turbulent times, but truly thrive, we must engage boldly and intentionally with the world around us. No ranking system captures the full scope of a university's impact, but they're often too often treated as our ultimate measure. Yes, we measure things like our economic impact on the state of Illinois is $24.9 billion a year. 1 in every 37 jobs comes from us. 2.4% of the state's economy is derived from the University of Illinois. But I don't even mention those things because they don't come together to say impact. So we define it in terms of lives uplifted, short discoveries we produce, the partnerships we forge to solve real world problems. That's how we should, so it's more qualitative, but it's the essence of the land-grant mission and movement. Sustainability is important, but a sustainable world isn't always one we want to live in. A thrivable world, on the other hand, is where people, communities, and ecosystems can flourish. And that's what I see as our historic role at these times, to be that university system committed to building not just a sustainable future for our youth, but a thrivable future for our youth. To do this, we must be catalysts for individual uplift, catalysts for community vitality, catalysts for economic resilience, catalysts for global cooperation systems change, and all of it lasting with ongoing impact that yields real outcomes. It's working while nationally there's a decline in trust in higher education. We have to face that. Our local polling in Illinois, though, shows that the trust in our university is growing. And I think it's mostly because I've kept our costs down. We've got 7% growth in our tuition through a 38% growth in inflation. So it's getting cheaper by the year to come to our university, and that's helpful for building trust. At our core, our University of Illinois system exists to educate and empower the next generation, preparing them not for yesterday's world, but for tomorrow's challenges. Primary responsibility. So we're committed to delivering that world-class education at scale that is excellent, affordable, and accessible, and has the exponent, magic exponent, that is not hoarding credit, but delivering to the world. And our enrollment has grown more than 20% in the last decade, and in the fall we're looking at another 10% increase in our enrollment. So demographic cliffs notwithstanding, the message is if you like it, you will come. And so we need to work on that. We prioritize outstanding teaching, experiential learning, and making it easier to transfer into our universities through gateway programs, support systems, and just this last year we graduated another 27,000 students going out into the world. Most of them stay in the state of Illinois. So when we get criticized, we're just populating the world. Not true. 3 out of 4 graduates stay in Illinois, raise families, pay taxes, vote, etc. And that really helps in Springfield, the state capital, to point that out to our elected representatives. And we've also worked hard on diversity. Our graduates now include a 51% increase in the number of black graduates over the last 10 years, and a 117% increase in Hispanic graduates over the last decade. We're becoming more fully representative of the society in which we're embedded, and we can't forget that as a core mission. We as universities also must have the capacity to serve beyond our campuses in extraordinary times. And I'm just going to skip over, but we developed something called the Saliva cloud-based COVID test, a 3-gene test. I like to say it was better than anything you've ever seen. And yes, it was criticized, saying little kids will not drool into a vial. Yes, they drool just fine. We had like tens of millions of tests done. We demonstrated at the White House that asymptomatic transmission in healthy young adults was dominated. Remember the mask, no mask? It was a U of I data that showed that. We tested everybody all the time, because if you want to wipe out a virus, you need to know where the heck it is. And if it's not showing up in coughs and sneezes, you need to find it and isolate it. That was a very successful thing. But what I wanted to point out is we wrote a Nature paper that showed that it saved tens of thousands of lives in our local community that would have otherwise been lost. But we didn't stop there. We gave away the intellectual property. You might say, like, why did we do that? We gave away the intellectual property. It was a global health crisis. We gave it away. Some 90 universities across the country took it, ran with it. They relabeled it. It was called the University X, the saliva test. But we gave it away for free because we published the recipe. And I'm very proud of that. We do that as part of our DNA. Yes, we like the royalties when they come, but really what we're trying to do is create things that can be used in society. And another example from the University of Illinois Chicago is we developed the successful HIV/AIDS treatment Persista way back in 2006. And we partnered with the United Nations to make it accessible to low-resource regions, saving millions of lives worldwide. President George W. Bush talks a lot about PEPFAR. Persista was part of that. It was made available. The innovation was done here in Chicago, and it was made available to sub-Saharan Africa at scale for the AIDS pandemic there, saving millions of lives. So this is the proof of impact. Just a couple of examples. There are lots of examples of impact that universities can have if they interact generously, collaboratively, generously, but with a focus on impact. We have right here in Chicago the Discovery Partners Institute, which is our anchor for tech talent and innovation. It's one of 15 hubs that makes up a network across all of Illinois. So every public university is part of that network, private universities too. We have a network of innovative capacity, and we have a council that meets regularly on that, and we have a quantum initiative that's now $2 billion plus initiative with IBM and so forth, working hard on next generation computers, but without leaving behind the STEM workforce, which is important too. So we're working on all of that. Our commitment extends to deep engagement with the business sector. I just wanted to take a moment just to flood the space with logos. And yes, you can see Tesla's on that list. Tesla came out of U of I, the original as I mentioned before. But UI companies that have been founded by alum are market cap more than $2 trillion today. Just take the top 30 companies there that have their roots in public higher education. So my appeal to you all is, let's act like we're the heavyweight we are in transforming the landscape, in affecting the economy, in building capacities in a generous collaborative way, and that's what we need to do to rebuild the trust and confidence. At the SRI Congress, we had over 40 major funders, including government science agencies, philanthropies, corporations, venture capital firms. Why? Because we need to add a 0 or maybe even 2 zeros on the international investment in designing, co-designing and co-creating a thrivable future for humanity. So we need to use scale, credibility, and convening power to do all of that. So networks of networks is the way we think about how we should interact as catalysts. And so we don't have 200 MOUs, but we have about 15 deep partners. Roll your sleeves up, faculty to faculty partners in Brazil, in Taiwan, all 13 universities there, in India, at IITs, triple ITs. We've been asked to co-develop a new engineering university in Bangalore. In Latin America, more than 20 agreements in Mexico where they do amazing healthcare development, obesity, diabetes, dietary things, nutrition, etc. So we need to work in a framework that's globally collaborative. So this is not trades or tariffs in terms of globalization. This is intellectual globalization. So let me return at the end here to SRI. I started with it. I said it was a lighthouse event. It kind of thrilled me too, because I was sitting there watching this, and you could see it, inspire people. And we brought together problem solvers from across sectors, and we were the solution capital of the world, and we wanted people to walk away. So we stand here at a defining moment in our sector, I believe, with a responsibility to act with urgency and purpose, given the headwinds, the indisputable headwinds, very significant, and progress will occur at the speed of trust, as already been pointed out. We must be leading beyond our campuses. Universities must be embedded in society, not apart from it. We need to forge coalitions across sectors and borders, because the problems we face are shared, so must the solutions be shared as well. We must dismantle the silos that slow our progress. That's the magic exponent, across disciplines, across systems, across continents. We must speak with courage, because truth, reason, and evidence need defenders now more than ever. And we must, as my friend Raphael Brass, who's here, many of you know, would say, we must be deliberately innovative. And so we must remember, finally, that the university of the future, which we're given the privilege of helping to create, given the situation we're in, must not be defined by walls, but by reach. Not by prestige, but by partnerships built, and perhaps most importantly, the problems it solves and the impact it generates. So the future we create is a choice. We'll choose to lead, choose to catalyze, choose to act. Let us choose to build the kind of world that people everywhere need, where they can live, work, and thrive, and where hope becomes a reality. Thanks so much for listening to me.